Elizabeth Montgomery may have been no stranger to the attention of men thanks to her time playing Samantha Stephens on Bewitched, but most considered her a relatively wholesome figure until a posthumously released tell-all book revealed she actually led a fairly salacious life. Join Factsverse as a new book confirms who Elizabeth Montgomery slept with. Was Elizabeth Montgomery truly wholesome? If your only familiarity with Elizabeth up until now has been the late actress's work on the hit TV show Bewitched, you might think she was straight as an arrow. Despite the fact the character Elizabeth portrayed was a witch, she was an exceptionally wholesome one. The character was Samantha Stephens, and the plot of Bewitched revolved around her giving up her traditional witch lifestyle to wed a mortal man. That man was Darren Stephens, played by two different actors over the course of the series. Samantha remained unflinchingly faithful to her husband. Whether thanks to her supernatural powers or stunningly good looks, the character could have had any man she wanted. The fact that she chose to stay with Darren made the character all the more appealing to television audiences. As often is the case, fans of Bewitched grew to believe that Elizabeth Montgomery displayed the virtues of her character. However, Elizabeth never found her own Darren Stephens during her life. Instead, she moved from one man to another. In addition to her 4 husbands, these men included a variety of notable stars. Elizabeth hooked up with a lot of different men. It's relatively common knowledge by the time of her death that she'd married 4 times. However, it wasn't until the release of a 2014 tell-all that the public learned the truth about her debauchery. It seems the 4 men the actress was married to was only the tip of the iceberg when it came to the many men she hooked up with. Of course, in modern times, in the era of sex positivity, it doesn't strike us as that odd that a woman would have several partners. But you have to remember, back in the day, this wasn't always the case. Some might think it's scandalous that such a tell-all book would be released so long after an actress's death, but the release of the 2014 tell-all came with Elizabeth's approval. She dictated the contents to the book's author. The book is called Twitch Upon a Star, The Bewitched Life and Career of Elizabeth Montgomery. The author was a man named Herbie Pilato, who was incredibly blessed that he was the person that she decided to spill all of her secrets to. The recent book continues to shock those who only know of the actress from television. There were many men who lusted after Elizabeth due to her incredible beauty. It was so great she received advances from none other than Elvis himself. When it came to romantic conquests, Elizabeth had a penchant for older men. This enraged the actress's father, who was a notable performer himself. Her father was Robert Montgomery, and he protested when his daughter attempted to initially become a star. He even turned down the chance to play her on-screen father on Bewitched because he couldn't accept that his daughter was an actress. Robert's actions only made his daughter that much more adamant that she was going to become an actress, and they didn't help out in her personal life either. Elizabeth was married 4 times. The first of Elizabeth's 4 husbands was a man named Fred Kamen. Though Fred isn't a notable figure in the industry, he was a prominent socialite in his time. Fred was around 10 years older than Elizabeth. Robert Montgomery was infuriated when his daughter married a man so much her senior. Elizabeth arguably only became involved with Fred to upset her father, and this understandably didn't lead to the greatest marital union. They clashed early on into the marriage. Fred wanted his beautiful new wife to become a stay-at-home mom for his prospective children while he made a living for them. Elizabeth, however, had no intention of giving up her dreams of becoming an actress, so the two butted heads. They lived in New York, but Elizabeth took off for California after they divorced. It was her goal to become a Hollywood star. Before becoming a star herself, though, she found herself in a relationship with one. When she got to California, she met and married the famous film star Gig Young. And Robert Montgomery was even more upset at this marriage. Fred had been a decade older than Elizabeth, but Gig was nearly 3. Not only that, but Gig was also far worse of a match for the aspiring actress. Fred had stifled her creativity, but Gig Young proved outright abusive. Elizabeth's second husband was abusive. At the time he was married to Elizabeth Montgomery, Gig Young was a full-fledged alcoholic. The actor's alcoholism caused him to be emotionally abusive towards his spouse, and some sources claimed he also might have gotten physically abusive on certain occasions. Despite this, Elizabeth tried her best to remain devoted to her second husband. Unlike her first, Gig fit in with her acting dreams. After divorcing Gig, Elizabeth wasn't proud to have gone through 2 husbands in such a short period of time, but it was certainly for the best that she didn't stay with either. Gig's alcoholism only worsened after their divorce, and he ended up dying in a murder-suicide with his subsequent wife. Though Elizabeth's penchant for pursuing older men had yet to work out for her, she kept it up when picking a 3rd husband, producer Bill Asher. It was through her relationship with Bill that Elizabeth finally became the star she wanted to be. Bill was the producer of Bewitched. Sadly, both Bill and Elizabeth became involved in extramarital affairs over the course of the show's filming. In Elizabeth's case, her affair was with one of the program's directors. That director was Richard Michaels, who was also married. Elizabeth's 3rd husband regretted the divorce. Elizabeth's affair with Richard Michaels may have been the straw that broke the camel's back when it came to her 3rd marriage. But Bill Asher played a big part in creating an atmosphere in which the actress felt it was okay to cheat. Bill was unfaithful himself, and he blamed himself for the marriage falling apart. Elizabeth moved on fairly quickly, continuing her relationship with Michaels. Despite this, she and Richard never married. Their relationship ended as a result of Elizabeth having yet another affair, this time with ballerino Alexander Godunov. Elizabeth only married once more after divorcing from Bill Asher in 1973. Her final husband was an actor named Robert Fox, and this time she married a husband who was actually younger than her. Despite the fact that Elizabeth and Robert didn't marry until 1993, they were together for many years before officially tying the knot. They first became romantically involved shortly after the actress's relationship with Alexander Godunov came to an end. After Elizabeth and Robert married, they only had around 2 years together before the actress tragically passed. Despite the fact that she and her 4th husband were only married a short time, the relationship lasted much longer than any of her previous relationships overall. Elizabeth left behind a salacious legacy. Montgomery passed away in 1995. Her cause of death was cancer, and she didn't have much warning before her ultimate demise. She was only aware that she had cancer for a few weeks before passing. She took her diagnosis with a grain of salt, and her preparations for the end included spilling the beans to the author of her posthumously released tell-all book. Besides the men we've discussed, there are also some other notable figures that she may have been romantically involved with. President John F. Kennedy was said to have been exceptionally smitten with the Bewitched actress, though rumors of them having an affair have been unconfirmed. There are many stars she developed notable crushes on, whom she appeared alongside in a film called The Court-Martial of Billy Mitchell. Rumors of Elizabeth and Gary having an affair were sparked when a crew member caught the two alone in the latter's dressing room. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know Elizabeth Montgomery was married 4 times? Let us know in the comments section below.